Hi, I am Emily Kyle. We're going to talk today about the difference between SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. Very different programs. Sometimes people can get some of each of those programs, which can be even more complicated than you might otherwise think. And there are certain benefits that you can get depending on which of those programs you're receiving. So let's start with Social Security disability benefits. Those are benefits that are available to generally somebody who has worked enough quarters and thereafter becomes disabled. So as we're all working, we pay FICA tax, we pay into Social Security, and the workers who are also working after we retire are paying in to pay for our retirement benefits. For Social Security disability benefits, you have to have enough quarters of work and then become disabled and unable to work in order to get disability benefits through Social Security. And the number of quarters or the number of hours that you worked will depend on what your age is. And so you would want to seek professional assistance to determine if you've worked enough hours, or call the Social Security Administration, or go online to your myssa.gov account, and you can see how many quarters you have in, and then you can find out whether you have enough quarters. You have to become disabled and unable to work. So unable to be what they call gainfully employed, which essentially means being able to work a full-time job without accommodations. Just because you can't do what you used to do doesn't mean that you are disabled for Social Security benefits. And so you might have been a professional or an executive and you can still do other work. You probably will not be eligible for disability benefits. Also, if you're receiving long-term care disability through your employer or through a private policy, you would need to report that income, as there's an offset between the two programs. One of the things about Social Security disability benefits is 2 years after you've been approved for those benefits, and it might take you 2 years to get approved, quite honestly, you would then be eligible for Medicare insurance regardless of your age. So you could be 50 and have gotten Social Security disability benefits at 48, and now in the 25th month after approval, you would be eligible for Medicare benefits. If you lose your disability, that doesn't necessarily mean that you lose your Medicare right away. So lots of complicated rules about that you would want to look into if you're receiving disability benefits. Separate and apart from that, we have SSI, Supplemental Security Income. This is for folks who are disabled but have not worked enough quarters and do not have more than $2,000 in assets and have very low income of probably less than about $900 a month. So for SSI, the maximum payment is $914 a month. And a person who's on SSI is automatically eligible in the state of Arizona anyway for Access Health Insurance. Now, if you have both, you might be getting Medicare, and you might also have access benefits to cover the things that Medicare doesn't cover. Or you might be just on Social Security disability and Medicare and still have some access benefits because you have very low income and therefore could be eligible for some access benefits, a Medicare savings program, to help offset those costs for Medicare copays, deductibles, drug programs, all of those sorts of things. SSI is often, again, for folks who haven't worked. Maybe somebody has Down syndrome, and so they haven't worked enough quarters. Even if they have a part-time job, the great thing about that is they're actually earning credits towards Social Security disability and retirement. SSI payments, that $914, will be reduced if the person is working. So essentially the first $85 of employment of earned income is disregarded, so they would still get the $914. After that, half of their wages are counted against that $914. So you have to report your wages every month because they probably fluctuate. So your SSI payment may change over time. If you get cash from somebody, so unearned income, The first $20 is disregarded off of that $914. After that, it's a dollar for dollar offset. So it doesn't make any sense to give more than $20 a month to somebody who's on SSI because you're just trading your money for money from Social Security. So that doesn't make a ton of sense. They might have a special needs trust and you're making distributions on a prepaid debit card, like on a TrueLink card that they swipe to pay for things at the store, or maybe the trust is directly paying for other services. That typically does not have a reduction for the SSI payment, except if the trust or a third party is paying for food or shelter. Food will go away soon, but shelter is going to continue at least for the foreseeable future. So if the trust is paying or a third party is paying $5,000 a month to help the person with housing expenses, the most that your SSI will be reduced is 1/3 of the $914, about $300 a month. So there will be an offset, but you don't lose your SSI just because somebody is helping with food and shelter. If you're receiving benefits through a housing voucher or through subsidized housing, that does not reduce your SSI payment. And if you're on SNAP benefits for food assistance, that will not reduce your SSI payment. It's only if a third party, including a trust, is paying for those expenses. The rules are super duper complicated and everybody's situation is different. So your attorney would want to have all of the details to help you understand it. But remember, the representative payee, even if it's that if you're the disabled person and that's you, or your child or loved one is disabled and you're the rep payee, has the responsibility to report any funds that come into a recipient who is receiving SSI benefits. Any change in financial circumstances must be reporting in writing to the Social Security office. We always recommend that you send it certified mail, return receipt requested, so you get your green card back, or that you can go into the office now and have somebody sign a receipt that they in fact received that information so it can get entered into the system. There are also complications if there is child support for a child over age 18. That is considered the income of the child. And so that money can be irrevocably assigned to a first-party special needs trust. I have a different video on the difference between special needs trusts, but child support post-age 18 can be assigned irrevocably by a court order into a first-party special needs trust, so you don't end up with a deduction, meaning that that person could get SSI benefits and get child support without reducing the SSI, so you're maximizing the money that's available for that individual. I totally understand that the rules are really confusing. Always get legal advice if you're confused about what you should or shouldn't do. You can always make an appointment with Social Security and talk through your benefits. The other benefit that's available that lots of people don't know about, if you have a child who was receiving SSI or deemed disabled prior to age 22, when you as the parent or a step parent in certain circumstances, and even a grandparent in certain circumstances, if that person lived with and was a dependent of those folks, when that person retires and starts receiving Social Security, that child who was disabled prior to age 22 will now get a percentage of that other person's retirement benefit, and in most circumstances without reducing their retirement benefit. There are some family limits, but we'll just generalize that usually it isn't a reduction. So then they convert to, it's called disabled adult child benefits. People call it a disability benefit. And one of the great things is, just like I said at the beginning, somebody on disability SSDI benefits will get Medicare 25 months later. So will the child who's on DAC benefits. So if your kiddo was disabled prior to age 22, you retire at age 65, 67, 70, whenever it is you start collecting your Social Security, and your kid might be only 40 or 50 at that time, you would want to make sure when you start collecting Social Security retirement that you tell Social Security you had a disabled child, disabled prior to age 22, so that they can implement that disabled adult child benefit. So lots to learn, lots to know. Social Security is pretty good about being able to do that and answer your questions. If you have questions for us, please reach out 480-348-1590. Have a great day, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you.